In 1977, a small golden spacecraft was launched from Earth, a fragile messenger carrying our voice into the unknown. That craft was Voyager 2, one of humanity's most ambitious attempts to touch the stars. Designed with technology no more advanced than what we carry in our pockets today, it was never meant to last this long. Yet, against every prediction, it has endured, crossing beyond the edge of our solar system and into the cold, silent ocean of interstellar space. For decades it drifted there, faint signals trickling back like whispers from a ghost ship. Then came the silence, a silence so profound that many assumed Voyager had finally gone dark, its mission completed, its voice lost forever, but in the stillness of that void, something stirred. After years of near silence, Voyager 2 suddenly spoke again. And what it sent back was not the comforting hum of scientific data, not the familiar telemetry engineers expected, but something that shook the very people who built it. The importance of any signal from a spacecraft so impossibly far cannot be overstated, but this one was different. In the endless calm of deep space, Voyager 2 had broken its silence with a message that would terrify the world. It began like any other uneventful monitoring shift, a quiet evening at NASA's Deep Space Network facility where rows of engineers watched streams of code scroll across glowing monitors. The room hummed with the low, steady rhythm of machines, just another night listening to the faint heartbeat of the cosmos. Then, without warning, a spike appeared on the screen. At first it looked like static, the kind of random noise that space often throws into a signal, but this was different. It repeated. Again and again, the same fractured burst of data struck through the silence like an unexpected knock on a locked door. Engineers leaned closer, murmuring to each other as the anomaly refused to vanish. One ran the data through a filter. Another checked for solar interference. Could it be Earth-based noise bleeding into the channel? Could it be cosmic radiation corrupting the feed? Every explanation felt unsatisfying, every test deepened the mystery. This wasn't a malfunction, it wasn't random. It carried structure patterns that seemed too deliberate to ignore. The room shifted from casual routine to razor-sharp focus. Heads bent, keyboards clattered, radios crackled with tense voices. Minutes stretched into hours as they confirmed the impossible. Voyager 2, 12 billion miles away, had sent a transmission no one could explain. A signal so unnatural it demanded attention. But buried inside those repeating bursts of data was something even more unsettling, something that looked less like numbers and more like a message. At first glance, the signal looked like corrupted code, the kind of garbled mess engineers had seen before when radiation scrambled a spacecraft's electronics. Lines of ones and zeros spilled across the monitors in an endless stream, as if Voyager 2 were choking on static. But as the team slowed the playback, a strange rhythm began to emerge. The noise wasn't random. It pulsed in patterns, short bursts, long pauses, then the same sequence repeating with unnerving precision. One researcher leaned forward, whispering that it resembled binary, the universal language of machines. Another pointed out that the pauses looked too deliberate, almost as though someone or something was spacing the data intentionally. The room grew quieter with every second, each click of the keyboard echoing like a drumbeat in the tense air. When the sequence was translated, it revealed something even stranger. Hidden within the binary was a simple numerical pattern, descending counts, like a digital clock ticking down. No telemetry, no scientific measurements, just repetition and reduction. To some, it looked like an error loop. To others, it felt chillingly like a message stripped of all complexity, a signal boiled down to one terrifying essence. Time running out, for hours they checked and rechecked the data, hoping to dismiss it as background interference or a transmission glitch, but the more they analyzed, the clearer it became. The signal carried intent. It wasn't just noise bleeding from the void. It almost felt like a warning delivered not in words, but in the most primal code of all, numbers counting toward something inevitable. And as the final fragments resolved on screen, the team realized with a shiver that Voyager 2 had not simply spoken. It had whispered something the world was never meant to hear. News. of the strange transmission didn't stay confined to a control room for long. Within hours, whispers had spread through NASA's internal channels, and soon hushed emergency briefings were being held behind closed doors. The tone was cautious, measured, yet beneath the calm voices lay a current of unease. Officials debated how much to reveal, how to explain a signal that defied explanation. Still, secrets never stay hidden for long. By the next morning, fragments of the story had leaked, and headlines erupted across the globe. The media pounced with a fury, each outlet scrambling to outdo the next. Some called it a countdown from the edge of the universe, others claimed Voyager had been hijacked by something alien. Social feeds exploded with speculation, turning the strange binary pattern into viral memes, eerie TikTok edits, and conspiracy-laden threads. Ordinary people, many who had never even heard of Voyager 2, now found themselves staring at screenshots of the numbers, wondering if they marked a warning, a prophecy, or the beginning of something far worse. Governments, meanwhile, moved quietly but urgently. Intelligence agencies requested classified updates. Military analysts studied the possibility of hostile interference, and deep space monitoring stations across the world were told to stay alert. It seemed every level of authority, from scientists to generals, was suddenly watching the same haunting sequence of numbers for a world already on edge. The message became more than science, it became a spark for fear. And just as panic began to rise, experts finally stepped forward to speak. But what they said next only made it worse. When the experts finally stepped into the spotlight, their words only deepened the unease. Astrophysicists were the first to weigh in, some insisting this was nothing more than corrupted telemetry. They argued that after nearly 5 decades adrift, Voyager 2's aging systems were bound to produce strange errors. Think of it like a failing radio, one scientist explained. You twist the dial and hear fragments of order, but it's just noise pretending to have meaning. Yet even as they spoke, their tone betrayed a hint of doubt, because true. Random noise doesn't repeat in perfect sequences. Cryptographers were less dismissive. To them, the repeating binary patterns felt eerily intentional. Some suggested it was a mathematical code compressed, stripped down, designed to be understood universally. Numbers, after all, are the one language that transcends culture, time, and even species. A few experts went further, pointing out that countdowns are uniquely human inventions, symbols of anticipation, endings, or warnings. If this is a code, one analyst remarked, then someone wanted it to be noticed. Then came the SETI. Researchers, the scientists who dedicate their lives to searching for signs of intelligence beyond Earth, for them, the signal carried a chilling possibility. We've always expected contact to come as a simple sequence. One noted, because simplicity is how you start a conversation. But if Voyager 2 was merely a messenger, then who or what was speaking through it? Debates erupted in interviews, conferences, and late-night broadcasts. Some experts dismissed the entire affair, others leaned into the mystery, and a few admitted, with striking honesty, that they had no explanation at all. The contradictions collided in public, leaving ordinary people caught between rational doubt and terrifying possibility. And just as the arguments reached their loudest point, the narrative twisted again, revealing something far stranger. Some dismissed the signal as nothing more than static cosmic radiation scrambling Voyager's ancient systems, creating what looked like an intentional pattern. In that view, it was less mystery, more malfunction. After all, a 48-year-old probe drifting billions of miles from Earth isn't exactly built to last forever. The calm, rational voices insisted this was just noise dressed up as meaning, but then came the counter-arguments. The whispers that refused to die down. What if it wasn't random? What if something out there had bent the signal deliberately? As if using Voyager as a puppet to carry its voice across space? Suddenly, the theory spiraled. Was this evidence of alien contact? Had a civilization finally answered the golden record we sent decades ago, or worse, had they overridden it? With their own message? The spectrum of belief split into two worlds. One camp clung to science, arguing this was merely a technical hiccup in a probe battered by cosmic winds. The other leaned into the possibility of a hijacked spacecraft, a silent chess move from an intelligence we've yet to meet. Calm analysis battled with hysteria, reassurance clashed with fear for weeks. Debates raged, scientific papers on one side, conspiracy forums on the other. Both pointed to the same haunting fact: the pattern didn't look random at all. And just when everyone thought they had settled into their chosen explanation, the story flipped again, revealing a twist no one expected. For days, the strange transmission seemed locked in endless debate. Was it corrupted data, an intentional signal, or nothing at all? Then, late one evening, a small team of researchers noticed something almost everyone else had missed. Buried deep in the repetition, hidden between the binary bursts, were faint echoes of another pattern. At first glance, it looked like background noise, but when isolated and stretched out, the fragments aligned like pieces of a puzzle. The signal wasn't a single voice. It was layered. The first layer matched Voyager 2's systems, familiar telemetry the spacecraft had always sent. But beneath it pulsed a secondary rhythm, sharper, cleaner, and most unsettling, originating from a different point in space. The numbers triangulated not from Voyager's location, but from far beyond, in a region of interstellar space Voyager had never reached. It was as though something out there had intercepted the probe, inserted its own data, and then sent it racing back toward Earth using Voyager as the messenger. The discovery flipped the entire narrative on its head. This wasn't a ghostly malfunction. It wasn't just static pretending to be order. It looked intentional, like a hand tapping through the darkness, hijacking a human machine to make itself heard. If true, it meant that for the first time in history, Earth had not just sent a signal into the cosmos, something had sent one back. And as the hidden layer grew clearer, its message was even more unsettling than the countdown itself. It seemed to point outward, directing attention toward a place no human had ever seen, as though beckoning us to follow. If Voyager 2 had truly been used as a relay, the implications were staggering. For the first time, the idea of being alone in the universe felt less like comfort and more like a fragile illusion shattered in an instant. Were we being contacted, or were we being watched? Some saw hope in the signal, a possibility that another intelligence had reached across the abyss, not to harm us, but to announce its presence. Others felt only dread, comparing it to a hunter tapping on the glass of an aquarium just to see how the fish react. The countdown-like message carried a weight that no one could shake. Was it a warning meant to protect us from something approaching, or a subtle threat cloaked in mathematics? If it truly pointed toward an unknown region of space, then was it an invitation or a trap? For scientists, the mystery was a challenge. For governments, it was a security concern. And for ordinary people, it struck something far deeper: the unsettling realization that humanity may not be writing its own story anymore. For the first time, we weren't just explorers gazing outward. We were participants in a cosmic dialogue. And the other voice had finally spoken. The world now stands in a place it never expected to be, on the receiving end of a whisper from the stars. Voyager 2, a machine built in the 1970s with circuits older than most of the scientists studying it, may have carried more than our voice into the void. It may have returned carrying someone else's, and that thought alone changes everything. No matter how experts interpret it: warning, invitation, or anomaly, the truth is that the message exists and it is still unresolved. Voyager drifts in silence again, yet the signal it delivered continues to echo in our minds, a question too heavy to ignore. Could it be that our first contact didn't arrive through telescopes or radio dishes, but through a lonely spacecraft, hijacked on its endless journey? Perhaps the most chilling possibility is not what was said, but what comes next. Because if Voyager 2 relayed one message,